Hello and welcome to NewsX. I'm Tejaswini and this is my colleague Rishabh. So Rishabh, there's a strange thing going on. It seems like China is having a secret war with India using copper. Can you please explain that to us?
Let's look at the facts, like the bald facts. The bald facts are this, that in May of 2018, when you had the situation of the Sterlite mine in Tamil Nadu being shut down after there were protests of environmental issues that happened. Let's put the protests aside for a second. Let's look at what happened subsequently. That particular mining area of the Sterlite Mining Corporation in Tamil Nadu was handling 40% of India's copper smelting capacity, 40%, okay? So nearly half of India's copper smelting capacity ended with the closure of the Sterlite smelting and refinery project there. So we are now more than 2 years in. For 2 years, 40% of India's copper refining and smelting capacity has been offline. This means that India has become from a net exporter of copper to a net importer of copper, where we were once producing enough refined copper to export to other parts of the world. We are now importing it. Which was one part of the world we were exporting to? We were exporting $1.5 billion worth of copper anodes which are used in batteries, to China.
Right.
Now $1.5 billion of exports, which means the Chinese were paying us to take these copper anodes, got knocked off India's export list roughly. Not completely, but quite a lot. This means that of the $100 billion in Indo-China trade, in which India runs a $65 billion trade deficit. So China runs a $65 billion trade profit every year. Okay, extra few $100 million, maybe $1.5 billion was added to China's profit because one thing that we were selling to them was knocked off the table. So 40%, so it's actually 38%, but roughly 40% of India's copper capacity is gone. We have reached a position where we are having to import 14,000 crores worth of copper. So a straight $3 billion annual loss is now happening on our current account. Okay, both by us not being able to export what we were to China and by the fact that we are having to import refined copper into this country. So we have become a net importer. $3 billion of loss is happening per year. Now India had a copper smelting capacity about 850,000 tons a year. Okay, 40% of that is gone, so you're down to 500,000. Okay, now in the June of 2019, when Sterlite came up before the High Court arguing its case, the Sterlite lawyer specifically blamed Chinese companies for running a plot against Sterlite. Okay, and incidentally, Jiangxi Copper is China's biggest copper smelter. So the Sterlite lawyer said, look, the Chinese are funding protests to get this place shut down. Now what we need to understand is that it is important for us in this day and age to understand that war is not something that happens in Doklam. War is happening constantly, all the time. For all we know, coronavirus is part of that war, okay, at some level. If the origin of the virus was not the war, subsequently the economic consequences, the cost of medicines are going to be part of that war. So global domination, global gamesmanship does not only happen through guns. China has acquired a port in Sri Lanka, Hambantota, by giving them a loan that they could not pay. They're occupying large parts of Pakistan by building a CPEC corridor and Gwadar port, which they know the Pakistanis can never pay them back. So there are other ways of fighting. There are obviously in this country very serious environmental concerns which we need to take very seriously. But at the same time, we have to measure and understand and be aware to the danger of misinformation and disinformation and corporate plots that end up damaging India without a single bullet fired. And that is the Sun Tzu philosophy of China. How do you defeat the enemy without going to battle? Okay. Now let me put this from a different perspective. The Chinese require 11.4 million tons of copper per year. They can't produce all of it. Although they are a net exporter, they still need to import certain kinds of copper products. They were getting some of them from India, not happening. So where is China now boosting copper production in? So a Chinese company in the same period, almost immediately after Sterlite in India is shut down, in the same 1.5 years, the Chinese aggressively start producing copper from Pakistan. There's a mine called the Sandak mine, okay, which operates in Pakistan. Their copper production and the copper exports from the Pakistani Sandak mine to China have gone up 400% in the same time, from $150 million to $500 million, and their target is to raise it 20, 30x to $10 billion worth of product going from that mine to China. So India's copper smelter shuts down. Pakistan's China investment copper production starts up, and they start sending from Pakistan through CPEC into China copper products. Coincidence? Could be, but it's deeply suspicious. Let's look at a different timeline. OBOR. For the first time, around about May, June of 2017, this is the first time that India expresses to China hesitance about this One Belt, One Road initiative, in which they want to basically make China the center of global trade. They call it the new Silk Route. They want to set up ports and shipping lines and basically remake the traditional global trade rate. The traditional global trade is happening through Suez, Panama, Straits of Malacca. Okay, so the Straits of Hormuz is in the Arabian Gulf, then through the Suez Canal, Panama, of course, the Panama Canal, and through the Straits of Malacca, which is in Southeast Asia, through Indonesia, Malaysia. These are the principal trade choke points. They want to completely reorder it. So in May of 2017, India expresses publicly to China that we are not so sure about this OBOR project. Exactly 1 year before the Sterlite mine shuts operation. Okay. Now, incidentally, it is in June of 2018 that India officially rejects OBOR, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, came up something which is called the Qingdao Declaration, which was the SCO partners saying that we are on board with OBOR. During this period, India has already through back channels communicated to China that we will not be supporting the SCO declaration. Okay, so by early 2018, the Chinese know that India is not, by May 2017, they know they're not coming on board. By early 2018, they know absolutely we're not coming on board. Okay? Absolutely. And then suddenly 40% of India's copper production disappears in May of 2018. And where does it start? Starts in Pakistan. Okay? Which is part of China's OBOR. So what we need to be deeply aware of is not only do the Chinese think these things, they do these things. They are very nefarious in doing these things. They are at constant war with you. They want to try every trick in the book. Cyber war, information war, disinformation war, okay, and industrial war at this scale. So while we need to be deeply concerned about our own real environmental concerns and real environmental activists, we have to be not naive in understanding that there are certain kinds of NGOs, okay? The United States has been running NGOs as a global front for CI activities for the better part of 50 years, 60 years, okay? You can Google it, you can find out which of the NGOs Ford Foundation is reputedly supposed to be one of them. Okay, that they were set up that you go in the guise of an NGO and you run a covert CI operation. And there's many reasons the United States has run them. One, to actually generally provide relief, other to do PR for the United States, and the other to actually have an excuse to be in the country, okay, operating a large network there. The Chinese are operating the same model. So we have to be deeply aware of this while we have to look after ourselves. And every time debates happen in this country regarding NGOs operating in this country and environmental NGOs operating in this country, and the government suddenly taking action against them and raiding their offices and asking them to leave the country, we often start wondering, because we are a free society, we're not China. right? So we go, oh my God, the NGOs doing good work. Okay, why they're working on environment? It's a good thing. Why are they shutting down? We don't know the backstory of these games that are going on.
Absolutely.
Okay, and they are going on. Now, to what measure the Chinese did this? That is for the Indian government and its intelligence agencies to know. What is the solution to this? Is again for the Indian government and the intelligence agencies to know, and to fight a counter warfare. But what is very important for us to know is the simple timelines. India starts being hesitant on joining China's OBOR project in early May of 2017. By early 2018, the Chinese know that India is not going to be supporting OBOR. Suddenly, in the May of the same year, India's copper production, copper is so important because everything that you use, every battery, every electronic equipment requires copper. Power cables require copper. So copper is a very valuable resource. Suddenly gets knocked out. So at the time that India is distancing itself from OBOR, suddenly India's copper capacity gets knocked out. And at the same time, China starts investing heavily in Pakistani copper production, which they can control and easily export into China to replace India's. India's current account deficit suffers, trade deficit with China suffers, India's import bill increases, India's reliance on imported copper increases. We have to be able to look at these timelines in a consonance and realize that this is the great game China is playing with you. Okay,
Right.
They are going to be playing it in times of Corona also, right? We were having a conversation yesterday, and we'll do a separate video on this, of how on January 21st, exactly one day after China declared to the world that coronavirus is human transmissible, within 24 hours, the same Wuhan lab started filing patents for coronavirus treatment medications. So once the world gets infected, you need to buy the medicine. China holds the patent. You have to pay them a premium. Who knows? China is already sitting on a vaccine, just waiting for the world situation to get bad, and then suddenly, oh, we've got this vaccine now. Please buy 14 billion doses from us at this exorbitant rate. You'll buy it, right? You don't have an option.
Yeah.
So we need to be aware of these kind of things, find out the truth, see how the Chinese mindset, the Sun Tzu mindset works. How do you defeat a person without firing a single bullet? Okay, without going to battle. And then be able to counter them and not be naive and get sucked in. Just because we are a free and independent country and proud of that, doesn't mean we necessarily have to just take things at the outset and believe everything that is told to us, for the point of premise that if we simply put the timelines together, they are all very deeply suspicious. So is China doing a secret covert war on copper in India? It almost most certainly likely is. Are there genuine environmental concerns regarding any industrial mining operations, smelting operations? Absolutely they are. But does that preclude the timeline of suspicion to China? It does not.
Thank you. That was Mr. Rishabh Gulati. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe to our channel.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.